Chapter 1. The Fall of a Champion. If anyone were to present Klaus Park with the hypothetical scenario of a noble, beautiful, and fascinating life of poverty in which it is possible to find the sentimental spark of unconditional love or even share a warm smile with someone, Klaus Park would only beat that person to a no way back. He would make this person look like a piece of flabby meat and wouldn't hesitate to finish by killing. The truth is that the world can undoubtedly be cruel and fate-barbaric to people who dream too much. As they say, the higher they rise, the greater the fall, and Klaus Park has experienced it for himself. When he was just a bored and energetic kid, he was encouraged by his older brother to play video games as it might distract him a bit. Soon, what was just a silly hobby became a youthful passion, which grew more and more in his heart over time. At such a young age, he got to know MOBA-style games and delved into the knowledge of one called Myth 2. Unlike single-player games, Myth 2 was an online game, providing endless possibilities, both for the variety of playable characters and for the difference in the player's gameplay. It didn't take long for Klaus Park's efforts to learn about that universe to make him the youngest professional player in Myth 2 history, at just 13 years old. His employment contract with the team that hired him was freewheeling, his salary meager, and his team members were men with frustrated professional dreams. In reality, his signing was nothing more than a gamble, and it became a meme in the gaming community within the first few weeks. However, at the end of that same year, the newly formed team became the world champions in a fierce best-of-5, personally displacing the greatest Myth 2 player of all time, who was about to retire from the scene. The pressure didn't seem to have affected him, making the world startled by the 13-year-old's coldness on stage at the event. In addition, the crazy tactics of that underdog team were the key to turning them into champions. Klaus Park's simple life has been transformed. Still, the boy was not satisfied. For him, it was still not enough, because Klaus was highly competitive and wanted to become the greatest player in the history of Myth 2. The following year, shutting the mouths of those who said they were lucky the year inside, the young player and his teammates reached the final of the World Championships again. But before the last best-of-5 started, the boy's cell phone rang. This content of novelfullbook.com, If you're reading this content, please go to website novelfullbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly. Klaus looked at his cell phone screen and saw his mother's contact name. His eyebrows suddenly rose, explaining his surprise. He was so focused all day that he forgot to call his family. In his mind, he suspected she was in the audience watching him play, so he thought it was pretty strange that she called him. Still, he answered his cell phone. "Hey, Mom, I'm about to go on stage now." He spoke, already thinking about the answer he would give when his mother wished him good luck for the matches. The call was silent on the other end. Klaus's lips moved to speak again, but he suddenly heard his mother say, "Son, your brother, he had a serious accident." Her voice was emotional. Even though she knew it was an important day for Klaus Park, she thought it would be unfair to him if he waited for the championship to end to deliver such news. The 14-year-old boy's world plummeted after his mother's news. Klaus Park's older brother was his biggest fan when he embarked on his professional gaming career, but he was the one who encouraged him to play video games in the first place. For Klaus, it was impossible to play without the support of Riser Park, his best fan and best friend. In the end, Klaus Park decided to help his pregnant mother and father, abandoning the World Cup final and his 4 teammates. Maybe this wasn't the most rational decision, but it was the boy's choice, aware of all the consequences that would come. Riser Park underwent many surgeries to survive a bus hit, but in the following weeks he still didn't wake up. Doctors warned the Park family that the chances of Riser waking up were extremely low, as his multiple organs functioned only with the help of modern hospital equipment. Even though it was difficult, all the Parks believed that Riser would wake up one day, and as they had made a lot of money in the last year, they chose to keep him plugged into the machines. Years passed, and Klaus Park became a tired young man from a competitive boy. Deep in medical debt with his family, he had no choice but to work in the office of an insurance company in order to earn a measly salary. At least I have this loud guy keeping me away from thinking too much, Klaus thought, as he watched his office mate speak so excitedly once more. Man, you have to listen to this one. My girlfriend and I were playing this new virtual reality game yesterday, and bro, we ran into some assholes in a forest near a game start point, and they killed us for our items. Ha 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 ha! I've never seen my girlfriend so angry, Jaya said, grinning like an idiot. Jaya has distinctly oriental features, but he had bleached blonde hair and wore many flashy earrings. Despite being a former nerd, he's quite popular with girls for the different way he is usually dressed. Eh? And why are you saying it so happy? Aren't you afraid of looking weak in front of your girl? Klaus Park teased him with a sadistic smile. You only say that because you were not there. The players in this game are so tryhards we didn't even stand a chance, Jaya stated, and popped 3 straw-shaped chocolate candies at once into his mouth. Klaus Park didn't get much into gaming after his brother's accident, so he just listened to Jaya without saying too much. Really? Yay! I don't even know how there are already so many high levels in this game. It only launched like 4 months ago, I think. We even lost all of the levels that we got grinding last weekend. This is so frustrating. Jaya complained and sighed regretfully. And you know what, For a few more minutes, Klaus listened to Jaya complain about the online game, and when their lunch break was over, he only asked his colleague one question as they went back to their tedious work. And why do you even keep playing this if it always makes you disappointed, even as just a beginner? If you tell me it was because of your cute girlfriend, I'll make fun of you forever. Jaya suddenly stopped walking to think about it. He put his hand on his chin and shook his head, thinking of reasons to keep playing. I don't know, he replied, smiling. What? If you want to find out, you'll have to play it too. I just can't explain the feeling of playing Rise Online. It is just amazing. Jaya was still showing his white teeth in a wide smile. Klaus Park turned away, put his hands in the pocket of his dress pants, and started walking to his desk. Tisk! Fuck it! I'll just mind my own business. As he watched Klaus walk away, Jaya scratched his head with his right hand. Why do I still talk about these things with him? I'm sure he doesn't even know what a VRMRPG is. Oh, I almost forgot. I have to deliver that worksheet today, damn it. Klaus Park's former career and life were part of a past he wanted to forget, so he didn't tell this to literally anyone, including Jaya. And furthermore, the company that managed Myth 2 went bankrupt 2 years after Klaus stopped playing, thanks to the loss of hundreds of labor lawsuits by the game's developers. Everyone who played this MOBA migrated to several other games, and the worldwide fame of the legendary players of the Myth 2 competitive scene was practically erased from history. As he wished, Klaus Park was forgotten, and his notable achievements as a player all but disappeared from history with the fall of Myth 2. However, even miserable, the love for games was still secretly alive in Klaus Park's heart, and he couldn't suppress it forever. On the night of the same day he had that talk with Jaya about Rise Online, Klaus was returning home after yet another date with a woman who was at least tedious. He stopped before the crosswalk, waiting for the light to clear. Facing a busy avenue, there were so many electronic billboards that it looked like it was daytime. Naturally, Klaus started watching the advertisements flashing in the sky. Suddenly, a loud voice was broadcast over the loudspeakers of the biggest screen on the avenue. The standard of virtual reality games, Rise Online contains hundreds of different races to choose from normal humans to centimeter-sized fairies. Meanwhile, every second on the screen a different character design appeared, emphasizing what the narrator was saying. For Klaus Park, it was nothing new. He already knew about Rise Online since this game had become famous all over the world. As the advertisement said, this game was not just another virtual reality game. Playing it had become essential for any gamer. Rise Online was the most innovative game in history and continued to amaze the world with its endless array of skills, tens of thousands of classes, and rich open world. The freedom within the game was impressive, and the fantastic adaptive system of it made the experience cool for novice players, but also deepened the options for more experienced players. These advertisements are everywhere, what a pain in the neck, Klaus thought. Then the youth turned his face away from looking at the screen anymore. However, His eyes landed on the cell phone screen of a boy with uniform clothes who was passing him at that moment. The boy appeared to be watching a video of a battle in which a red-headed woman was fighting with a sword against 7 men. This lady had a stunning beauty, which, for some reason, mixed with the elements in the scene, made Klaus think it was probably from some new movie. However, he was surprised when he noticed the live sign in the upper left corner of the screen. Klaus Park didn't have a chance to think about this in detail, and even though the pedestrian light was still closed, the boy kept walking forward without looking where he was going. On the avenue, the cars weren't going very fast since they were inside the city, but there were so many cars that if one of them suddenly braked so as not to run over the boy, surely the cars behind would crash into the one in front and there would be a lot of damage. "Oh, that sucks! I'm tired! Today is Friday," Klaus complained, but he didn't hesitate to grab the boy by the shoulder a second before his feet touched the street's asphalt. Suddenly the boy looked back with a surprised face, quickly turning into a fearful face. Klaus Park was tall, broad-shouldered, and his black hair was slightly messy by nature, but his angry eyes made him intimidating to others. "Watch out where you're going, kid." "Yes, sir, thanks." Cowardly, the boy didn't want to look at Klaus for too long or exchange many words. They both waited together for the green light for pedestrians, and when the opportunity arose, they crossed the avenue together. Since Klaus was still curious about what the boy was watching so closely, he didn't hesitate to ask, "Hey, kid, wait a second." The boy in schoolboy clothes turned around, with muscles so tight that he looked like a rusty robot, already imagining the man was going to ask for some money. What, sir? What are you watching? Is it some movie?" Upon hearing this question, the boy was relieved and extended his cell phone forward, showing that the red-haired woman's struggle was not over yet. "That? Well, this is a stream of Rise Online, a virtual reality game." Klaus Park raised his eyebrows. He couldn't believe what the kid said was true, and there was no way the game's graphics could have evolved so much. Yes, he hadn't watched any gameplay of any game in a long time. Still, he was pretty sure that the augmented reality games he played during his childhood were nothing compared to the computer ones. Hence, his expectations for virtual reality games were always low. Klaus's disbelief became so great that as soon as he got home and greeted his father, mother, and younger brother, he went to his room to research more about Rise Online. Klaus forgot to eat dinner and take the bath he was so anxious about, all because he spent hours watching videos and reading newspaper articles about the gaming world's newest star. Gradually, that hidden urge in his heart began to be fed, and he began to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. This energy was so intense it made his heart flutter. "What do I do? Today is Friday, and I won't be doing anything over the weekend. Should I try it?" he wondered as he looked up at the ceiling. Before thinking twice or getting afraid, Klaus went downstairs to the first floor and woke his younger brother with a jolt. "Hey, Ark, wake up," he whispered. The 7-year-old boy woke up with sleepy eyes since it was already dawn. "Bro, can I borrow your neuro gear? It is important." Okay. You can take it." The boy was so sleepy that he didn't even notice that Klaus had already picked up the neuro gear left on the study table. The device used to enter virtual realities was called NeuroGear and had the appearance of a tiara that perfectly adapted to the size of the wearer's skull. There were many different versions available on the market, but the version that Parks had was the cheapest. When Klaus Park arrived in his room with the device in his hands, he walked over to his computer chair and sat down. Another time, he looked at the price of the game on the online platform and thought, "Fuck it. I have $150. Today is Friday, and I have nothing better to do. I can play over the weekend and ask for a refund on Monday." Klaus Park refused to spend money on silly things, including his own wishes, as he had to pay Riser Park's medical bills. Then, with his right index finger quivering with hesitation to buy the game, he clicked the green button and bought. Klaus huffed in relief and immediately began transferring data to NeuroGear. The moment the transfer complete message appeared on the computer screen, Klaus put on the tiara and lay down on his bed. What were the words in the manual like? "Oh yeah, start connection," he uttered, closing his eyes. The NeuroGear vibrated for a second before turning it on as it was old and outdated, but then Klaus felt the sensation of his mind being pulled. Everything went quiet and dark for the next few moments, which made Klaus realize he was in deep immersion. He read a lot about neurogear before giving his brother the one he bought second-hand. When the user was using this hardware, he didn't use his eyes or ears to see and hear, but the signals that were sent to his brain. Not to mention that neurogear not only allowed the user to see and hear, but also to touch, smell, and even taste. Before Klaus Park knew it, he was in a completely dark and quiet world, where there was a semi-transparent screen in front of him. Calibrating data. Calibrated data. Checking Rise Online game updates. No updates found. Do you want to connect to Rise Online? Yes, no. Without hesitation, Klaus's right index finger moved to the Yes key and touched it. The neural scan indicated that you are an unregistered user. Do you want to create a new account or transfer an account from another game? Yes, no. Seeing this message appear before him, Klaus smiled. He had read a few posts in online forums about this, but apparently most new players just ignored this screen. All because most didn't understand what of a benefit of transferring an account was, and since most of the players were generally attached to their original game accounts. So it was true. If I am right about it, if I transfer an account, I will get some bonuses on random class choice. Maybe I should try that? Klaus Park spoke to himself and clicked Yes. His hopes were low of finding some of the old games he played among the available options, and he couldn't remember the login and password for most of his accounts. The semi-transparent screen in front of him expanded when touched, displaying dozens of famous game companies, many of which Klaus Park didn't even recognize. After all, he had been away from the gaming world for 7 years. He just ran his eye over the screen quickly, and just as he was about to click the X at the top to close the window, he saw something familiar, a logo of a fist on fire. Klaus's eyes went wide, and he scratched them to ensure he wasn't hallucinating. No, it's definitely the Myth 2 logo. His gaze turned grim, and the expression on his face serious. Immediately he clicked the flaming fist. Login and password fields appeared for him to fill in. Klaus Park hesitantly filled them in, then clicked Confirm. Myth 2 game account transfer to Rise Online has been completed. The man was dumbfounded that the account data was correct and that there really was an old game available for the account transfer, as well as stunned to hear the notice that authorized the transfer, confirming that it was not a bug. Do you wish to continue with the character name Kaizen? Kaizen is a word of Japanese origin meaning change for the better and continuous improvement. This was Klaus Mark's professional name in Myth 2, which for him was like a way of reminding himself to always be evolving, becoming 1% better than the day before. Klaus Park this time did not hesitate and replied, Yes! In Rise Online, there are 100 races. You can choose from the 10 primary races, human, Oni, elf, draconoid. This content of novelfullbook.com, If you're reading this content, please go to website novelfullbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly human. He didn't even wait for the voice to finish mentioning all the races. Select your gender between male and female. Male! You can customize your appearance. I want it the way I am. The character Kaizen of the human race has been successfully created. In Rise Online, you are free to evolve as you choose. Your attributes and class will be determined as you play. Connecting to the world server, please wait. Rise Online was the first virtual reality game to successfully connect all players in the world in a single server, with an extraordinary data array connected by hundreds of satellites and built-in translation software for the world's most spoken languages. It was these kinds of details that excited Klaus Park so much that he came out of retirement from gaming, at least temporarily. Welcome to Rise Online. You have randomly appeared in the starting city of Holinda. Upon being warned by the voice in his head and the floating message in front of his chest, Klaus raised his head. In front of him was a fountain that gushed crystal-clear water upwards. The water was so realistic that Klaus could see no difference from reality. The way each drop that splashed from the fountain fell on top of the rest of the water and blended showed a graphic rendering ability far beyond anything Klaus Park had ever played in his life. Not only the visuals, but also the sound of the game was surreal. Klaus could hear a clatter of voices in the square where he spawned, and the sound of the gushing fountain, the birds in the sky, the cool breeze of the sunny city, and everything around him. Ow! Klaus Park was faced with the sight of countless characters, users, and NPCs. For a moment, he thought he was in the middle of Times Square. This is amazing! Of course, Klaus Park was dumbfounded by what his eyes were seeing. The graphics of Rise Online were even more overwhelming in person than by stream or videos. Curious, he looked down at his legs, lifted his right foot, and stepped firmly onto the ground. Thus he could feel his muscles twitching and the solidity of the ground. The people passing by him in that busy square could not contain their laughter. Look, a noob. The scenes of their arrivals are always so funny. I can bet he never played a VR game before. Hey, buddy, you can walk, you know. Ha ha ha. Several other people made mean comments about Klaus Park, but he didn't mind any of them. He grew up playing online games and was used to all kinds of behavior coming from players. Klaus Park was adapting to the consistency of his senses using neurogear. Everything was exactly the same as reality. However, the city looked a little strange with most people wearing armor, but there were also those in casual clothes like Klaus, who was wearing only a black shirt and jeans. Klaus Park suddenly slapped both hands hard on his cheeks, startling the people who were mocking him. Okay, the graphics in this game are amazing, but what makes a game fun is not the graphics, but the gameplay. I have to test as much of the gameplay as possible before I make a refund. As a newcomer to Rise Online, Klaus Park was stuck in this starting town until he reached level 3, the minimum level needed to ascend and gain a random class. To level up, you need to get XP, and most newbies look for simple jobs to get this. After all, there are no monsters inside the cities. Some people take simple quests or dedicate themselves to learning some skill, such as fencing, archery, blacksmithing, cooking, and so on. Rise Online prided itself on its flexibility and virtually unrestricted freedom. The town squares were crowded with merchant users and many adventure-hungry groups being formed non-stop at every minute. Klaus Park was not interested in making friends yet, so he walked to the training center to test the battle gameplay. Like every beginner, he was given a map of the initial city he was placed in, so he didn't get lost. However, when Klaus Park got close enough to the training center, he noticed a large crowd of people, and suddenly the map screen turned into a warning screen. Caution! You have just entered an area where a story event is taking place. Chapter 3. Training Center. Warning! You've just entered an area where a story event takes place. Klaus Park raised his eyebrows as he read the notice and wondered, a story event? What is that? Well, it shouldn't be anything I can interfere with, so it's probably not a problem. He entered the small crowd that had formed at the entrance to the training center and came across the arena of a vast coliseum. You entered the Holinda Start City training facility. Since Klaus Park didn't think he had much time to waste, he opted to go the other way the noise was. All he wanted was to start Rise Online's famous combat tutorial as soon as possible. The truth is that the scene of the red-haired woman fighting 7 men at the same time with a single sword was still deeply embedded in his memory. The arena floor looked like a large pool of sand. Klaus Park headed straight to the area with some rag dolls for fencing practice. Besides the dolls was a man with blonde hair and black eyes who smiled friendly after seeing the youth. "Good afternoon, sir. Are you new to the arena? I've never seen you here," the man asked, looking into Klaus Park's face and hoping he wasn't mistaken. "Good afternoon. You're right. I'm a newbie. I want to learn about sword fighting," Klaus replied without caring, even after looking at the message above the man's head, which displayed that it was an NPC. "And teaching is my job here. You have a wooden sword with you, don't you?" Klaus frowned, not understanding. Then he thought about opening the inventory, and a screen appeared in front of him. A few minutes ago, in his inventory, there were only 3 loaves of bread as a novice gift, but now there was a wooden sword, making him surprised. Before clicking on the wooden sword in his inventory, Klaus Park looked at the man and asked, "If I may ask, what is your name, sir?" Klaus Park already knew the answer to this question as the names of the NPCs hovered over their heads, something that did not happen with players. The fencing instructor was surprised. After all, it was not common for people to ask his name. He made a heartful smile again and extended his right hand forward. "My name is Bernie from the Coyle family. It is an honor to meet you. This content of novelfullbook.com, if you reading this content, please go to website novelfullbook.com to continue reading." Fastest update hourly. Klaus Park extended his right hand forward and shook the NPC's hand. Before buying Reezy Online, he read on a forum that developing good relationships with NPCs could be as important as doing it with players. These relationships could benefit him with extra information, hidden quests, discounts, and many other things. It's all right. Before we start the sword training, I'll explain to you the most basic thing. There is something called PR, which is an index to measure your current physical skill level. You can check this in the System Status window and then in Attributes. Bernie articulated with his hands as he explained. People are not born into this world with the same level of physical fitness and ability, so don't be discouraged if you see that your PR is too low. It is usually between 40 and 50. I still haven't checked my status, Klaus Park replied to the instructor. Although he was an avid gamer as a kid, MMORPGs used to get off to a boring start for him. He always tried to get to the mid-game as quickly as possible. But with this being his first time playing a Neurogear game, he couldn't rush that far away, at least if he didn't want to get lost in the future. Let's see. Status screen and then Attributes. Status screen nickname, Kaizen vertical bar class, none, vertical bar current. Title transferred beginner, vertical bar profession, jobless. It is calling me jobless. This game is pretty ruthless, Klaus Park said while looking at the system, which made Bernie laugh a little. Attribute strength, 1 vertical bar speed, 1 vertical bar. Agility, 1 vertical bar PR, 120. My PR is equal to 120. Didn't you say the normal is 50? With his eyebrows furrowed, Klaus Park asked. The fencing instructor gaped and broke out in a cold sweat. He'd had few opportunities to see rookie players with PR above 90, so seeing one with 120 was really surprising. Asterisk. On the other side of the training center arena, several players were closely fawning over a knight whose armor was as golden as his hair. Above his head was his name, Elfire Wayland, indicating that he was an NPC. The ornaments on his armor were silver and formed majestic designs on each part of the set. This could only mean that he was a noble. After all, the armor of normal city guards was considerably simpler. The knight wasn't the only NPC present in the center of the crowd. There were also 2 more young nobles with blonde hair who looked younger than Elfire Wayland. The NPCs proudly chatted with the players, feeling welcomed by their people from the city of Holinda. Elfire Wayland didn't know that the players weren't there by being impressed with him, but because they all wanted to create relationships with him to gain benefits from the nobles of the city. In Rise Online, titles, relationships, and money were as important as rare skills. All right. We've talked enough for today. The 3 of us have a mission to fulfill here at the training center, so I'm sorry, but we won't be able to stay much longer, said Elfire Wayland, raising his arms in the air and waving as if he were a king, greeting his followers. Disgusting people, I hope they die, he thought, still with a smile on his face. Then the 3 armored nobles headed to the other side of the arena. However, they were surprised to see that the instructor they wanted to talk to was busy with a beginner. Normally they wouldn't mind getting in the way, only this time Elfire Wayland didn't proceed and started looking over. The 3 noble boys were watching the rookie Klaus Park, who was testing basic moves with his wooden sword on a training dummy. Klaus had never touched a sword with his bare hands, but he could surely say that the sword in Rise Online looked perfectly real. The feel, the weight, the sound, everything about the sword, and the experience of using it were away from his expectation. He tried lunges, swings, and many other types of attacks, feeling a little regretful that he never practiced kendo. Elfire Wayland was secretly impressed by Klaus Park's swordplay, but he couldn't say why. There was nothing special about the way this beginner wielded the sword, just that it was still imposing, perhaps because he had a broad back and was tall. Elfire Wayland couldn't say. When Elfire realized that the instructor had not even noticed his presence being so focused on the teachings, he approached and asked, "You are Bernie Coyle, aren't you? You are under arrest for not paying taxes. Boys, tie him up." Chapter 4. NPC's Klaus Park glanced back at the sound of footsteps and saw 3 guys in flashy armor approaching where he was. All of them had blonde hair and blue eyes. As they were just watching for a while, Klaus continued to pay attention to the training center instructor's teachings. However, the guys suddenly took a few steps forward and began talking aloud to Bernie Coyle, the instructor accompanying Klaus Park. "You're Bernie Coyle, aren't you? You are in jail for tax evasion." "Boys, tie him up," said Elfire Whalen. "What did you say? Can you repeat?" the instructor asked, very confused by the sudden news. One of Elfire Whalen's followers advanced, grabbing both of Bernie Coyle's arms and forcing them back without giving the instructor even a minute to defend himself against the accusation. "You're under arrest for not paying taxes. This is evasion. Do you understand what it's—" "Evasion? I didn't do anything, I promise. I pay all my taxes on time." Bernie began to despair. The other follower of Elfire drew his sword from a side scabbard and shouted, "Calm down, sir. Don't lose your mind." Bernie Coyle was as young as the noble boys, but their social class was markedly different, as shown by their clothes, so Bernie was startled by what Elfire Whalen said, but he didn't dare scream or cry out for help. The others in the arena looked without wanting to interfere, both the NPCs knowing that those boys were noble and the players who understood that this was a history event. At the mercy of the social aspects of the city of Holinda, the instructor knew there wasn't much he could do to avoid such an awkward situation. The nobles had ultimate authority. They owned all kinds of investments in the city, including the Adventurers Guild, so he would be getting into a big fight if he reacted to the arrest in public. So Bernie hung his head in shame and let his hands be tied behind him. The ones on the edge of the arena were whispering about what they'd seen, but no one dared do anything at all. "Are they really going to arrest you for not paying tax? Isn't that a little too cruel? It's just an NPC, don't get involved. He looks so innocent. Who's to say he's more of a tax evader?" The nobles were usually strict with the laws, including collecting taxes, but Klaus Park didn't care about any of that. He just wanted to complete the tutorial. "Wait a moment," Klaus exclaimed after driving the wooden sword into the training dummy's chest. "I still haven't finished my training with Mr. Coyle." Elfire Whalen looked back over his shoulder and saw that the tall man Bernie was talking to had decided to intervene. At that moment, Elfire cast a contemptuous look at Klaus. "What can you do? Will you pay his debt?" the boy guiding Bernie through shoving asked with a smirk. The public in the place immediately reacted to the situation, as surprised as the nobles. "Hey, he's a player, isn't he? Is he really going to pay off an NPC's debt? Is the idiot really intruding on a history event? What is so special about a training center instructor doing this? Look at his clothes. He's just a rookie. He doesn't even have money to buy a starter gear." In fact, Klaus Park only had 3 bronze coins in his pockets, which was the starting amount for all new players. "I will not pay any debt. I just want to finish my tutorial. Can't you guys wait a few minutes? Then you can take him prisoner." Klaus Park was sincere with his intentions. Everyone in the arena's jaw dropped at the rookie's statement, except for Bernie, who couldn't contain his laughter, and Elfire Whalen, who clicked his tongue and turned utterly to look Klaus Park in the eye. The moment Elfire Whalen turned, the blue cloak on his back swung, as did his golden hair. "Are you interfering for something so insignificant? Look for another instructor," he ordered. "Do you see any other instructors around here? Then come back at another time. There will definitely be one." "Nah, I want to finish my tutorial now." Klaus Park didn't have much time to waste if he wanted to make the most of what the game had to offer by Monday. At that moment, the second noble that accompanied Elfire Whalen could not hold back any longer, and as his sword was already out of the sheath, he just brandished it towards Klaus Park. Everyone watching the scene sighed as they saw him slash, but Klaus Park just took a step to the side and managed to perfectly dodge the attack, causing the sword to hit the sand floor hard and get stuck. "Ow, did he just try to kill me? Can NPCs really attack players that casually?" Klaus Park thought. He knew that PvP wasn't allowed inside big cities, so he was shocked by the revelation that NPCs didn't have the same restriction. Klaus Park looked at the boy seriously after dodging and then took 2 steps back. The noble boy had a very stressed-out personality, and the detour from Klaus Park did not help him to calm down. Huffing in rage, the noble tried to pull the sword off the ground and tried again, but no matter how much he pulled, the blade didn't come out. "Want a little help?" Klaus made fun of him. Soon the boy abandoned the plan to use the sword and withdrew a dagger from the belt of his armor. "You will pay for this with your life!" Elfire Wayland placed his right hand in front of the boy's chest, preventing him from running towards Klaus Park. As Elfire Wayland was a shrewd man, he had already noticed that the number of people watching the discussion was even greater than when people wanted to talk to him, so he thought of using this to promote himself. "You are an idiot? Why are you acting like this with a citizen of your city?" "As nobles, we should consider his request and handle the situation like the nobles we are," said Elfire Wayland to his follower. "What do you mean by that?" Klaus Park was confused as to why people had sighed at his words at that moment. Elfire Wayland withdrew his steel sword from its black hide scabbard, planted his feet firmly on the sand floor, took the sword hilt in both hands, and exclaimed, "Sir, I challenge you to a real duel." Chapter 5. Smile of Enthusiasm. You have been challenged to a duel. Do you want to accept? Yes, no. Warning, level disparity is too high. Klaus Park looked at the warning screen with a bored expression as everyone on the edge of the arena screamed with excitement. Before making up his mind, Klaus Park looked at Elfire Wayland and asked, "What the hell is a real duel?" Elfire's confident smile grew even wider hearing that question. "As a noble, I will be responsible for explaining to this honorable citizen what a real duel is," said the man in glorious armor, opening his arms to the viewers. "My dear, real duels are life and death duels. The loser dies and the winner conquers all that is at stake. In that case, if you beat me in this duel, Bernie Coyle's debts will be forgiven by the nobles, and I will die with the honor of a noble knight." What a show, huh? Klaus Park thought with his eyes closed as he watched Elfire Wayland speak with such excitement. Klaus Park understood that the boy was just an NPC, but Elfire Wayland's acting and overreactions were even more caricature than the characters in the dating games Klaus played as a child. "All right, I accept your challenge," snorted the novice and clicked yes on the system warning screen. "I wonder if there's really such a big difference in level between the two of us." "Of course there is. I'm level 1. Also, if I get the chance to test the game's combat so quickly, why would I wait until I'm level 3 to be able to fight monsters?" He judged. For Klaus Park, it was better to start with a real battle than to practice swordplay in order to level up and experience something similar. Klaus was also interested in trying out other things from Ries Online, but the game's combat was still the one thing that caught his attention since he saw the combat videos on the internet. However, not in his wildest dream would Klaus Park think that the duel would draw so much attention. Within minutes, there were nearly 100 people around the entire training center arena. Will a rookie really fight a high-level NPC and it is a noble Wayland? Well, it won't be funny, Tilda. Has he even received a class yet? I believe he is level 1 yet, so he doesn't. I saw him in Spawn Square and he was looking like a confused child. It's probably just a kid, haha. I'm going to do a live of it. The rest of the world needs to see this. Oh gosh, Tilda. This is definitely going to become a meme. Of course, all the viewers were convinced that the duel already had an obvious winner. However, the situation was so unusual that they were eager to see which one it would be. The outcome of all this, after all the whole context, was part of a history event. These types of events can change the course of characters, families, cities, or the entire history of the Rise Online world, meaning having a newcomer meddling in this was, at the very least, comical for some and worrying for others. The training center instructor helped Klaus Park don the basic leather armor and offered Klaus Park his own sword to use in combat. By the look of Bernie Coyle, Klaus could tell he was apprehensive and feeling guilty. This fascinated the novice, who had never seen such a minute level of detail, expressions, and emotions in an artificial intelligence character. "Don't worry, I'll beat him," Klaus Park decreed with confidence. At that moment, Bernie Coyle noticed that he couldn't hide his concern and put a fake smile on his face. "Don't try too hard to die for me. We met today. I would feel guilty." Klaus Park walked over and placed his right hand on Bernie Coyle's right shoulder. Don't think so negatively just because I'm a noob." Bernie Coyle looked at Klaus Park upon hearing these words and noticed that the expression on Klaus Park's face had changed. If before Klaus Park seemed a serious and balanced man, Now the wide smile of enthusiasm plastered on his face completely transformed the whole first impression that Bernie Coyle had of Klaus Park, as if he had turned into someone else. The truth behind this sudden change in personality was that Klaus Park was starting to feel a warm energy that was gradually taking over the training center. The people's looks, the clatter of voices, it all felt like he was playing a face-to-face championship after so long, but the feeling was also different in many ways, as if he was experiencing the feeling of pressure for the first time in his life. And Klaus Park loved feeling a competitive pressure. It boosted him. The duel between Elfire Whalen and Klaus Park will begin in... Although Elfire Whalen was confident that he had the full capacity to defeat an ordinary-looking citizen, Klaus Park's disturbing smile and his confident gaze were making him hesitant for the battle at least a little. 3, 2, 1, duel initiated. When the large system screen flying over the arena ran out of time, Elfire Whalen quickly slammed his sword into the ground, knelt down, stretched both hands forward, and screamed as he hit on the ground, "Electric dispersion equal sign?" What is it? Is it magic? Klaus Park wondered. This was the first time he'd seen anyone act like this since in PvP battle videos no one shouted the spell's names. Confirming Klaus Park's suspicions, a blinding wave of pulsing electricity shot out of Elfire Whalen's arms and onto the ground, which formed a sharp electrical surge. Anyway, if there's electricity in the name of the spell, he probably wants to use the ground to propagate the force of it, so I just need to jump. Almost instinctively, Klaus Park jumped on the electric wave as it approached, and just after that, he saw Elfire Whalen's face pale. Klaus Park's jump wasn't very high, but his decision was definitely quick enough to silence the entire arena. After all, it wasn't normal for a level 1 rookie to have the reaction time needed to dodge a level 15 skill so naturally. In Rise Online, it's common for groups to get together to hunt monsters and complete quests, and it was precisely these two things that Emma M. Nielsen had in mind when she logged into the game that Friday night. However, her plans were derailed by a message that appeared in the corner of her screen as soon as she logged in. Patiently, she opened the message, and a chat with a player expanded in front of her. Dathan: "Hey, Blood Lily. I thought you wouldn't log in tonight." Blood Lily: "The appointment I had was quicker than expected." Dathan: "So, you'll like the news. By the way, do you have a teleport crystal for the starting city of Holinda?" Blood Lily: "Yes, I think I have. Why?" Dathan: "I was watching a live stream, and the streamer said there is a story mission at the training center about to start." Blood Lily: "Meet me in front of the training facility." Story quests are extremely rare events, especially those previously announced. Generally, any player's actions can affect the path they follow, and during normal quests, the lives of NPCs are also included in the range of possible consequences. But story quests acted on a higher scale, even involving entire worlds. When Emma M. Nielsen arrived in front of the training center building, someone was already waiting for her. That someone was Dathan. Dathan was a classic male swordsman, but his body was lean, and his stature was shorter than most men in Rise Online. He almost looked like the protagonist of a girl's manga. After all, his big eyes were piercing, his straight brown hair swung wildly with the slightest gust of wind, and every feature of his face was thin. "Captain, I'm here!" Dathan nodded to the intensely red-haired woman who had just climbed the stairs leading to the training center. Blood Lily, Emma M. Nielsen's nickname, had an appearance that stood out from the other players in Rise Online. The hallmark of Blood Lily's avatar was her long red cape with gold accents on the collar. The armor of this stunningly beautiful woman was also very striking. In a matte black tone, the components seemed light and thin, but according to reports from players who have already faced the Blood Lily, this armor was practically impassable, being considered of holy level, the highest rank of items in Rise Online. "Have you been waiting here for a long time?" Blood Lily asked Dathan as he approached him. "It's okay. I arrived just half an hour ago. Come on, I've been told that someone has already interfered with the history quest." The red-haired woman was disappointed that someone had acted faster than her. Still, she didn't blame the person but herself for agreeing to Dathan's invitation without a previously prepared teleportation crystal for Holinda, which she had to buy from the Rise Online marketplace. As the two veteran players entered the training center, Blood Lily and Dathan noticed that the place was strangely crowded. Indeed, this was expected after a streamer had reported about the event. However, people were euphoric and screamed as if they were watching a championship battle. Bloodlily looked to the center of the arena and noticed that the reason for the energy of that crowd was the battle between two men. At first, she didn't understand why people were so excited about that fight and thought about leaving immediately since the mission was already claimed, but soon Klaus Park changed her mind. Holding the sword firmly and attacking with a lot of focus, Elfire Wayland should be able to defeat most players who were at his level. His armor, set light and resistant, gave him the security to attack without taking so many risks. However, Elfire Wayland wasn't even finding gaps to move around, with Klaus Park pushing him with fast and powerful attacks. Although it was the first time Klaus Park had fought using a real sword in his entire life, he felt somewhat familiar with the weapon. The feeling wasn't that different from holding a practice sword, and the tips on how to attack that Bernie Coyle gave him certainly helped him a lot. Klaus Park knew he had to balance his body weight well using his legs, and that his hands had to be steady so he didn't miss the shot. As Klaus Park attacked as fast as he could, forcing Elfire Wayland to defend, a system screen appeared in the upper right corner of his vision. But he didn't care about that at the moment and focused on delivering more and more hits. No doubt Elfire Wayland was in shock. The noble boy had never seen such offensive and fast fencing with his own eyes. He was used to opponents who respected and feared him, so that clumsy novice was his natural enemy. All players and NPCs who watched the battle also thought at first that the brutality of Klaus Park swinging his sword was the main factor dominating the opponent. But when the battle passed 10 minutes, no one could believe the rookie's feat. How is this guy keeping up this pace for so long? How much PR does he have? This content of novelfullbook.com, if you reading this content, please go to website novelfullbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly. Is he really level 1? How many agility points are developers giving newbies these days? This guy is a machine. At this rate, he's really not going to win, said Bloodlily to Dathan with a serious face. Dathan looked at the Bloodlily and asked, Really? That's a shame, but he's still impressive. How much PR should he have to achieve agility and stamina at level 1? You're right to care about his PR, but that's not the most important thing in this battle. It's the decision-making, explained Bloodlily, leaning against the iron wall of the upper stands. Are you trying to say that the reason he attacks so fast isn't because of his reflexes and natural agility? Dathan couldn't see Rize Online's factors on a competitive level. The rookie looks so fast because he's already memorized Elfire Wayland's simple swordsmanship pattern, so the rookie can pressure the NPC by abusing his speed. However, Rize Online is a game that generally rewards effort more than natural talent, so a level 1 cannot beat someone at level 25, no matter how many times he tries. In fact, Klaus Park had already noticed that he wouldn't be able to kill Elfire Wayland, but losing wasn't in his plans either. And while he was swinging his sword, the system screens popped in the upper right corner of his screen saying, You gained plus 10 XP. You gained plus 18 XP. Chapter 7. Psych. All the people watching the fight between the player Kaizen and the NPC Elfire Wayland were completely entertained. Some were saying that Kaizen was just a level 1 who had just logged into Rize Online for the first time, but the way he fights is far away from a beginner. Although Klaus Park had difficulty adapting to the game's strange VR gameplay, he felt he was slowly getting used to it during the battle. Certainly, playing with a neurogear was unlike anything Klaus Park had experienced before. It was nothing like playing something with a controller or with a mouse and keyboard. In reality, playing a VR game was like dreaming. But being awake was an almost indescribable and passionate feeling. Elfire Wayland was holding up well to Klaus Park's attack, since each of the rookie's blows barely managed to take his HP. However, Elfire Wayland was under so much pressure that he didn't even have time to think about how to get out of the whirlwind of blows. At first, it looked like the rookie was just very lucky, and over time it became clear that this was not the case. As viewers were stunned by Kaizen's performance, and some wondered how much PR he had, Klaus Park was starting to feel exhausted. Obviously that would happen. My stamina is still extremely low, Klaus Park thought when he felt his arms about to fall off. And which one is it? Doesn't this guy lose his life? The rookie had been attacking non-stop for a few minutes now, yet Elfire Wayland's armor was only slightly scratched. This is useless. I won't win if I continue like this. Klaus Park took advantage of a moment of blade clash to propel himself backward using the strength of Elfire Wayland, who was somehow trying to get rid of his pressure. Klaus was surprised that this maneuver worked, but now he was at the mercy of the noble boy's sword blows for the first time. Annoyed, Elfire Wayland swung his sword a little as he walked slowly towards the large black-haired man. Klaus Park waited for the NPC's attack, and when Elfire attacked, Klaus took a step to the right. The blade of Elfire Wayland's sword passed close to Klaus's face, who twisted his back as he switched hands. An opening in Elfire Wayland's stance appeared before Klaus Park's eyes. However, the sword-switching hands was a little slower than necessary, so the rookie could not grab the sword's hilt fast enough to block the skill that the NPC used. "Linked cut equal sign," Elfire Wayland exclaimed. As Klaus Park closed the fingers of his left hand on the hilt of the sword borrowed from Bernie Coyle, he saw Elfire Wayland disappear in the blink of an eye. Soon after, Klaus Park felt a tearing pain in his chest tear through his chest, and his knees went weak, but he didn't budge and remained standing. Kaizen's screen turned completely red with his blood. Klaus watched his health bar rapidly descend in the lower right corner of his vision. Although Klaus Park was down to just 1 GP due to Elfire Wayland's critical hit, this single hit point was what ensured he stayed alive long enough to receive the dodge experience from moments ago. "Congratulations, you've just moved up to level 3. Klaus Park's eyes widened and he smiled happily. Then another screen superimposed the congratulations screen. "You died due to the bleed effect of Elfire Wayland's sword. You lost 1 level by dying. Each time you die, your items are dropped on the ground and the level loss penalty increases. You lost 4 levels by dying during a story mission. You will respawn in 10 seconds. Normally, any player would be enraged by this order of events that happened to Klaus. However, he wasn't just any player, he never was. Losing 5 levels after trying so hard to push someone so many levels up made Klaus Park smile excitedly. Does this game really dare to challenge me? After the 10 seconds to respawning was over, Klaus Park slid his finger in the air gently downwards, opening the system. Then he clicked on the statistics window and the icon to expand. Statistics screen. Nickname, Kaizen vertical bar class. Click to gain a class randomly. Current title, newbie transferred vertical bar. Profession, jobless level, -2 vertical bar. Alignment, neutral vertical bar. Fame, 0. This content of novelfullbook.com, If you're reading this content, please go to website novelfullbook.com to continue reading. Fastest update hourly. The message in the class field caught Klaus Park's attention more than the negative levels. Without hesitation, he clicked on the exclamation mark with his right index finger. At the same instant, the tip of his finger turned a bluish-green hue, and dark rays began to spill from the screen that superimposed the statistics screen. On this new screen, there was a wheel spinning non-stop, but no messages. The black rays didn't stop streaming from the screen, and Klaus Park looked at the people passing him in Holinda's home square. Soon he realized that no one cared about it as he did. "Wait a minute, can't they see this?" Klaus wondered. When the loading wheel finally disappeared from the screen, a text appeared. "Congratulations, you randomly acquired the Psych class. The Psych class allows you to move and lift small things without having to move a finger. Note: the Psych class is not Rise Online Original. It is highly recommended that you evolve into a Rise Online Original class when given the opportunity." After the class warning screen disappeared, the black rays also disappeared, allowing Klaus Park to sigh. The rookie had no idea what he had just acquired until he heard a thunderous voice from the heavens. "Heads up! The first Psych class user appeared in Midgard." All the people in the square where Klaus Park was and all over the world heard the message. "What was that voice just now?" "It's the server, dumb. That means someone has obtained a unique class. These messages were common, especially at the beginning of this game." "But is it a Psych class? What the fuck does it mean? The best class in the game is Combat Mage." "Ha ha! Right? Even earning the Blacksmith class should be better. At least you can make some money." Ha ha ha! That's right, bro. A few hundred yards away from Klaus Park, among the people leaving the training center were Emma, Bloodlily, and Dathan. Isn't psych a skill that only high-level mages can get? Dathan asked Bloodlily after hearing the warning. Looking at the blue sky, the red-haired woman replied, I'm not sure, but if it's a single class, we should be on the lookout from now on. All that night, the debate over the notorious rookie from Rees Online spanned from popular streams to competitive forums. Many wanted to know what this new class was capable of, others wanted to know how to obtain it. And there were even some crazy people wanting to buy the account of whoever obtained this new class for a few $1,000s. While all this was happening, Klaus was on his knees in the square. His eyes were wide, and his hands were pulling at his hair. How? Why didn't I get the tank class if I was main tank in Myth 2? Chapter 8. XP and Family. A player in Rise Online has 3 ways to gain XP and level up. The first method, and the easiest to understand, is by killing a monster, NPC, or another player. Once completed, each kill in the world rewards the player with a certain amount of experience. Such amount can be different according to the level, meaning the stronger your prey is, the more XP it will drop. The second method is by completing acquired missions. Of all the 3 ways to level up, this is the only one that doesn't decrease the amount of EXP over time. However, the amount of EXP varies greatly from easier to harder missions. Finally, the third way to get EXP is the easiest. When the player performs any task, Rise Online will reward him with small amounts of EXP. These tasks can range from baking bread, cooking food, or even successfully landing a hit. The amount of EXP provided by tasks is small and gradually decreases as the player performs the same task. The latter method allowed Klaus Park to evolve 3 levels while fighting Elfire Waylan. It usually took 2 or 3 full days to get out of this early stage. The truth is that the situation in which Klaus imposed himself was what allowed him to cut that path. Within the towns, battles are not allowed unless they are duels between players, and duels between players don't give EXP, but duels between players and NPCs give EXP, and Klaus Park was not only fighting an NPC, he was fighting an NPC of a much higher level than he was on a story quest, giving him more EXP than he would receive in an entire day. However, as Klaus Park was a rookie, he wasn't too scared by his deed, nor by the fact that he ended the day with 2 negative levels. For him, these things might be normal to happen. After falling to his knees in the square after looking at the class he received, Klaus realized it was getting late, and as his day had been long, he decided it was time for bed and logged out. As he fell asleep in his partially darkened room, lit only by the wire that connected the neurogear to the computer, Klaus wondered if he should create another account and start from scratch. Of course, he didn't have the money to buy another account, so he would have to ask for a refund. In the end, with strong and heavy eyelids, Klaus decided he'd think better of it the next day. The following day, Klaus Park woke up early, around 8 in the morning, and before doing anything else, he did his 20-minute calisthenics session with the iron bar on his closet door. Then he took a hot shower, dressed in warm clothes to go out in the cold, and went downstairs to the first floor of his humble home. In the kitchen, Klaus found Chun and Ard Park, his mother and younger brother, respectively. Chun Park was a better 50-year-old who appeared to be much younger than most women her age. Her skin was brightly white, her eyes small, and her beautiful black hair was long. "Good morning," Chun greeted Klaus upon seeing him. "Good morning, bro." Ard Park immediately got up from his chair and ran to his older brother. Ard Park was 7 years old, small, and had a face very similar to Klaus's, with black hair and eyes, but Ard's face had the difference of being a little rounder and his eyes a little bigger. "Good morning," replied Klaus Park, still a little sleepy, having gone to bed so late,
and he grabbed Ard by the head with one hand when the boy was about to hug him. "Don't even think about it. I won't take you today either." In mid-air, Ard Park crossed his arms and puffed out his cheeks. "Why won't you take me? I want to see Brother Riser too." Their mother smiled after taking a last sip of coffee from her cup, got up, and bent down to be at the height of her younger son. "Ard, we have already explained to you that the hospital is not a nice place for children. Your brother took you last week, and I took you in the middle of this week. Let Klaus have some time alone with Riser for today," Chun Park said, and Klaus soon released the boy's head. "All right." Ard made a sad pout with his mouth and returned to his seat at the table. "Is the dad not home?" Klaus asked Chun next. "No, he went to work today too, said he's staying late to earn overtime," her mother responded, brushing a strand of hair behind her right ear. "Okay, I'm going to the hospital then." Since the department at the insurance company where Klaus worked was only open from Monday to Friday, he usually used Saturday off to visit Riser Park at the hospital. "Wait a minute, Mr. Klaus. Aren't you forgetting to tell me something?" Chun asked. Klaus Park looked at the woman, not understanding what she meant, and then he remembered what had happened the night before. "Do you want to know how yesterday's date with your friend's daughter went?" She was annoying, so I dumped her." "What? Did you at least give her a chance?" "Klaus, she's simply the most beautiful woman in town. How could you turn her away?" The look on Chun's face changed in just a second, from sweet and calm to furious. Chun was already rolling up her jacket sleeves, ready to punch Klaus if he gave a superficial answer. "I'm leaving." Klaus Park left before giving any answer, which made Ard Park laugh a lot. Chun immediately glared at the boy at the table angrily, which didn't faze Ard. "Ha ha ha! Mom, why do you and your brother always fight after the dates you get him? Haven't you learned that he doesn't like to be pressed with this wife thing?" Ard asked, and put the spoonful of cereal in his mouth. Chun Park was left unanswered for the younger son's question. She understood that Klaus didn't like his mother arranging dates for him every month, but Chun feared that Klaus would get caught up in his obsession with paying off all the family's debts and forgetting to live his own life. After all, Klaus was 21 years old and never had brought a girlfriend home. "Oh, Mom, I almost forgot to tell you. Last night the brother asked me for the video game. Can you take it from him later, please?" Ard revealed, causing Chun's eyebrows to rise and a slight smile on her face. More than anyone else, Chun Park knew how much Klaus had suffered since Riser's accident, moving through all sorts of jobs he hated, abandoning his promising professional career, and being the only one in his high school class not to go to college, so the possibility that Klaus had at least gotten back to playing games made her feel a little hopeful.